I might as well put you on Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathanawa, HaShabbath, Ba'Shalawam, Tawada, Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Saha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya Harayim Hayanyam Ya O Haharim Bayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Shaisha Shamayim Warataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Regalia Yala'a Yanawam Shashamarka, Hana, La'a, Yanawam, Wala'a, Yayashan, Shashwama, Yasharella, Yahweh, Shamaya, Yahweh, Tazalia, Ayel, Yam, Yawamam, Hashamash, La'a, Hakaya, Wairak, La'a Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamaria, Makal, Ra, Yashamar, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashamar, Hawalakia, Wabawaya, Ma'aitha, Wa'ai, Daiwalam, Basham, Yahweh Shah, Tawada, Amen.
Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help coming from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yisrael, Hail Israel. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Echad. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Echad. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh Echad.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Tapla Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwafka, Sabaa, Batazawanka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Yowum, Za, Wasalakwanawa, Kababasnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathanawa, Wala'a, Habiyanawa, Oh, Nasayawan, Abo, Awashinawa, Mara, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Watha Parath, La'ayawalam, Amen.
Amen. 96 and 9. After this manner, therefore, pray, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Ha'aisha Ramataz Waf, the Ten Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Laka, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanya, La'ah, Taisha, Laka, Paso, Wala'ah, Taibadam, La'ah, Alakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Lashwa, Zakar, Ath, Hayawum, Ashabath, Lakudashwa, Kabad, Abiaka, Wa'amaka, La'ah, Taratazak, La'ah, Zana'ah, La'ah, Taganah, La'ah, Dainah, Shakur, La'ah, Sakhamad, Ko, Asherah, Lara'ayaka, Amen.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God. This is the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat, be seated. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Tawada Amun, La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. I model upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakawam, Abiyah, Wanara'ah, Aliyawan, Malak, Shom, Shemayim, Wa'aratazah, Wako, Dabayim, Kayayam, Wagum, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawanawa, Ahabnawa, Apalah, Yahweh Yahweh Shai, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Anka, Yasha'Allah, Aizanawa, Bana, Wasap, Yasha'Allah, O, Nanawa, Yum Yun, Aitha, Kayuwamyum, Makwadam, Baba Kwasha, Shalat, Mayaka'Allah, Wahatazwadat, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Washamar, Alnawa, Baikwa, Shalat, Haroka, Sho, Yahawashai, Lanawa, Lalabanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Sabawana, Wada'aith, Sho, Dabarka, Basham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Samyad, Wa'iwalam, Amun. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, and also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people, Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, War, Lara Awa. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the rams on the call of people. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Koran, Ha'ayo, Lakara, Ha'aim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Hashaman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha Allah. Shabbat be seated. Right. Shalom, shalom. Shabbat, peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters that's listening on the teleconference line, that's watching us on the live stream, as well as here in the school here in Philadelphia. Happy Sabbath, Ashar Shabbat. Great day. Good to be back. To be here amongst the brethren, bring amongst the congregation. Feel your energy. As the sister said, good vibes. Yes, it is good vibes. It's the time when we come to the Sabbath service, come on the seventh day, the Lord's day, to replenish ourselves, to get back invigorated, tuned with the Most High in Christ, to separate ourselves from all of our worldly endeavors, everything that we had going on in the world, whether it was carnal things, work-related, family issues, whatever those things are. We pause that to try to get in tune with the Most High and revitalize our spirits. Praise Him, worship Him, thank Him for all that He's done for us, things that He's doing for us that we don't even know what's being in the works. A lot of these things is a way of self-meditation on the Sabbath day to reflect on ourselves, all the things that we need to do, the things that we've been doing that's on a positive note, and to increase those things. So again, for all those who logged on, listening in, and here again, Shalom. This is Hayashar Kanas. As most of us know, the congregation of Israel, where we unite brethren one with another, sister with sisters, all of us together as a family, coming back to our heritage, coming back to our culture, coming back to our power, right? That's what this is for us to reinvigorate us. I'm going to read this verse in Psalms 133. To be one of those songs we used to always read when we had our holy days and Sabbath services and brothers all came together. This is Psalms 133 and 1. It says, behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And we know the unity is the unity of the scriptures, right? So that's Psalms 133 and 1. And I'm also go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians, the first chapter. And the 10th verse. 1 Corinthians 1 and 10, it says, now I beseech you or beg you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. So that's what we come together to be unified, to speak the same thing, which is the Most High's word as it is written, which is Yahawashah, to now understand what it is that is required of us to get us to the end, to get through these perilous times that we're into right now and more to come. But there's certain things that are prescribed of us to go into our chambers, to go into our secret areas, which is this Bible, and apply that to the best of our ability until the time of judgment, until the time of our redemption comes by Yahushua and holy angels. All right. So this is what the gathering, or Hayashar Kanash, is, the gathering of our congregation uniting unto Yahushua through his word. All right. Those whose ancestors on their father's side dating back at least 3 to 4 generations. If you are of Negroid, Hispanic, Native American, Seminole Indian descent, then you are a descendant of the Lord's chosen people, the lost tribes of the nation of Israel, 12 lost tribes of that one nation, right? It means that the Lord has now sent out his prophets, sent out his seers, his watchmen, his prophets, prophetess, to now come and speak unto all of us in these last days, to send out the warning. And that's what we are heeding to now. That's what we are trying to pay attention to, watch and pray until that time comes. All right. So my name is Kahano Priest Samat. I'm going to be presiding over today's Sabbath service. We are in the Old Testament today, picking up back in the book of Judges, where we left off a few weeks ago, with the brother Gideon, and him being chosen to deliver the nation of Israel, him being raised up to be a judge within the nation. And when we read back in chapters 5 and 6, Gideon had a little bit of doubt that the Most High was going to work with him. So he prescribed these things where he put the fleece on the ground and wanted the fleece to be soaked with water and not the round around. And he did the other one. And he went back and forth showing you that, good Gideon, the Most High can choose anyone to use any vessel to accomplish his purpose. And it's sort of here in Gideon, where Gideon kind of like, was hesitant. He didn't think he had it in him. And then when the Most High had the spirit in him to go and destroy the false god, it said Gideon was fearful of the people, so he went at night and did it, fearing, retribution coming back to him for destroying it. And then they call his name Jerubbaal after the fact, right? Because he contended against Baal, right? So that's what we're going to pick up now. After those things have happened, the Most High is now going to choose and raise up the army that was going to go with Gideon to go and fight against the Midianites who had come to take them down along with another nation, right? So we're going to pick up in Judges, the 7th chapter and the 1st verse. Judges, the 7th chapter and the 1st verse. These two chapters are not that long, so we're going to do both chapters together today. All right. So this is Judges chapter 7, verse 1. It says, Then Jerubbaal, who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early and pitched beside the well of Harod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them by the hill of Morah in the valley, right? So now here it is. The Most High is about to go and have the men get in position to now move toward the region where the Midianites are, right? Which is by this well of Harod. It rose up and pitched there. Verse 2, and the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand have saved me, right? So here it is where the Most High had already determined that Midian would fall unto Israel, fall unto Gideon and those that are with him. But when he looked at the amount of men that was there, he realized and said, listen, it might be that it's so many of the Israelites there, they may think that they themselves went and did this because of their strength in numbers and not strength in the Most High. So the Most High wanted to minimize that, say, you know what, it's too many of them that's out there that's going to go fight. I can't have that happen lest they vaunt themselves or get proud and thinking that they, with their numbers, could go and take down any army. He wanted it always to be a source back to him that he is the one that controls and gives us the strength in battle. So go to 2 Corinthians real quick. Yeah. Kind of going to tell you a little bit later on that the Midianites are Ishmaelites. 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And verse 7. Y'all know if you can read that.
2 Corinthians 4, verse 7. For we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us.
Right. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of the Most High God and not of us. Right. We don't always want to look to say that, oh, I did this or we got this. When everything you do, you want to always give honor and praise and glory to the Most High, that the Most High is the one that delivers the battle. So we always have that gift. And not everybody can say that, right? No one else can claim or say that they have God with them. I know a lot of people like to do that. When you see these people in the churches and they praising God and you think that God is for them, well, the Most High never says that in the scriptures. Even though the Lord creates all nations, he said he would be a God or a power to us only, right? That's what it tells you in Amos, the 3rd chapter. verses 1 and 2. You only have I known of all the nations or families in the earth, right? The Lord said he would only be to Mount Zion to give us deliverance when you read it in Joel, the 2nd chapter, the last verse, right? So now when we come to understanding this, when the Lord said he's going to do something for you, it's going to be by his measure and his terms. So this is what's now going on with Gideon, where Gideon now has a massive army, and the Most High still wants to prove his power or have a lesson be taught to us that it's not strength and reliance on ourselves. It's always in the Most High. Y'all can
I'm going to read the scripture. It says Zechariah 4 and 6.
I was going there next. There you go.
Oops. Zechariah 4 and 6. Then he answered and spake unto me, saying, This is the word of the Lord unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, said the Lord of hosts. I said, yeah, so like I said, not in the strength of numbers, but by the Most High Spirit, not by this power. A lot of men we have, so we're gonna read further down, or the Most High gonna work it out,
right?
By His Spirit.
One more. Go to 1 Corinthians, 1st chapter. One and 27. And stop at 29.
1 Corinthians 1:27. But God had chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise, and God had chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty.
Right. So the Most High takes those who are looked down upon or who are not perceived to be wise men, strong men and women, things of that nature, and then can raise them up and have them outwit or outsmart or outthink anyone else, or raise up someone who's feeble and make them the strongest thing in their area, like he did with the Samson. He can raise them up and do certain things. So it's not always about what the perception of man is. It's always on what the will of the Most High is. Keep reading.
Verse 28. And base things of the world and things which are despised had God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things that are. Right.
So he can take anything and raise it up. And on the flip side, he can take something that's mighty, something that's reputable, of a good report, and bring it down and make it base. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 29. That no flesh should glory in his presence.
That no flesh should glory in his presence. Right? So now we're speaking specifically with Israel. The Most High didn't want Israel to vaunt themselves against the Most High. He didn't want no flesh to glory in his presence. Right now, we're just dealing with Israel. It's going to come a time where even the nations, the other nations, are not going to vaunt themselves before the Most High. But right now, this is the proving ground. This is the chastisement of Israel to get them to understand where our true treasure lies. And not with us, it's with the Most High Christ. Right? So now let's go back to Judges chapter 7. Judges chapter 7, I'm going to read verse 2 again. It says, and the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, mine own hand have saved me. Now, therefore, go to, proclaim in the ears of all the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there return of the people 22,000, and remain 10,000. Right? So there was a total of 32,000 people there at that time. More than half left, right? That was afraid to go and fight in this war, right? 22 out of the 32 left because they was afraid and fearful of the Midianites, who were really Ishmaelites, right? Go to Deuteronomy 20. This is a law that the Most High has in the Bible. Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. Start at verse 3.
Okay. Deuteronomy 20, verse 3. And shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, ye approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble, neither be ye terrified because of them.
Right. So here's a law that we just seen 22,000 men did not keep. Right. The Most High said, when you go to fight, don't be afraid, don't be fearful, don't have any doubt that the Most High is going to deliver into your hand, or deliver them into your hands, if he says he's going to deliver them into your hands. There's times the Most High said, don't go out and fight. This is not the day that you're going to win. So we got to be obedient. But when the Most High says he's going to deliver something into our hands, we got to trust. So here we seen 22,000 did not keep this commandment. So now, knowing that Israel has a heart that's not apt to keeping the Most High statutes, he had to have it in the law to bring order to how things is going to proceed. Right? Read on. Watch.
Verse 4. For the Lord your God is he that goeth with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you.
Right. So it's just not us that's going out to fight. The Most High himself is fighting for us. The Most High himself is sending the angels to come also and fight amongst our enemies and kill them for us. Sometimes the angels are there and we don't see them. In the past, we had it where we did see the angels, right? Like during the time of the Maccabees, with Judas Maccabees, how the angel came and protected and raised Judas up and protected him from the battle and went and killed off the enemies at that time. You had this happen during various times throughout our history, but now the Lord is making it a known, making it note that when we go out, he's the one that's accompanying with us. So imagine if you knew that they had the angels beside you, what type of pride you would have then, what type of courage you would have knowing that you got angels beside you that no man's going to be able to defeat, right? I don't care what Esau tries to contrive in these movies, they're not going to be able to stop the angels. They can't fight against the angels. So if you knew you had them, you would be overly courageous. But now sometimes you don't know, we don't know that the angels is always around us to protect us. Now we start having doubt. Maybe they're not going to do this. And that only comes from not keeping the commandments, not having that surety in your spirit that you're doing what the Most High requires of us to do. That's where that comes in. But read on.
Verse 5, right?
Yeah.
And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying.
So now this is when you're going out to war, you're going out to battle. Before you go out to the battle, you got to take this measure in order to weed out certain things because you want everybody's mind in the right space. Read.
And the officers shall speak unto the people, saying, What man is there that had built a new house and had not dedicated? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man dedicate it.
Right. So if you now just got a new home, right, you now setting everything up and trying to get everything established. You got things that need to be done. But now here it is, you may go out to battle and you haven't done that. So the Most High is a fair God. He wants that individual to lay the foundation in his house, to set up order in his house. He doesn't want him to go out and then somebody dies and then someone else comes in there and does that. No, let him go deal with his family, his wife, or whatever the case may be, and now dedicate that house, right? Sometimes you see people who get new homes. They'll have somebody come over there, dedicate the house. You want all type of the right spirits in your house. You want the right order in your house. So that person has to take that time away to go and do that, right? Read on.
Verse 6. And what man is he that had planted a vineyard and had not yet eaten of it, let him also go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man eat of it.
Right, because now this person, you know, has certain things that he has established and set up. The Most High is saying, listen, these men who got houses, vineyards, and these other things that we're about to read, let him go set that up and have put his name, put his stamp on it, lest he go die. And he had not done that, and then somebody else come and move in and take his name or take his foundation or his landmark. Let that be with that man's family. Keep reading.
Verse 7. And what man is there that had betrothed a wife and had not taken her? Let him go and return unto his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her.
Right. You see that with a lot of military young men. They go out there and they betroth these women, they just get married, and all of a sudden, boom, they off to the war. Right. And they haven't spent the time to go and be with their wives. They haven't spent that time to set up a family. And all of a sudden he's gone within a week or two. And then something happens in a battle and he has not laid with his wife to fully marry his wife, to raise up a family. Most High's faith said, listen, let those individuals go and deal with their newly found wives, right? And raise up seed. Read.
Verse 8. And the officer shall speak further unto the people, and they shall say, what man is there that is fearful and faint-hearted? Let him go and return unto his house, lest his brethren's heart faint as well as his heart.
Right. So now you don't want to have people who are afraid to go into battle. You want someone who's going to be on your right and your left side that's going to give their lives just as well as you're going to give your life, right? You don't want to have someone coming and you standing there in the thick of things, and all of a sudden you look to your right and then you see your compadre, he's running away, and you standing there by yourself, right? You want to have the assurance that you can have someone there. The brothers can protect each other no matter the cost. In this sense, the Most High understood that. He used this to weed out those fearful, faint-hearted men that was there. Sometimes you have that in there, and they cast doubt in certain soldiers, and they don't want to go out into the trenches to save their brother. They don't want to go out and do what is necessary to protect the nation. They cast that doubt, and then they go and they lay back or they do certain other things. These are all Israelites, but sometimes that spirit is just not in them to do those things. So the Lord is going to wean them out, right? Not only is he going to wean them out, but he even has the priest or the law put that into effect, that we now go out to the army, to those brothers who are in the army, and say, listen, which one of y'all is afraid? Be honest with yourself and stay back. Because if you're not ready, if you're not willing, don't come, right? And they'll come and they'll go back. And those who are strong, courageous, they'll be the ones that's going to go out and defend the nation with the Most High. Not by themselves. Remember, it's with the Most High, because the Most High is the one that fights for us. 1:27-29 that you read? Right. So let's go back to Judges 7:3. It says, now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there return of the people 20 and 2,000, and there remained 10,000. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. Bring them down unto the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be that of whom I say unto thee, this shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whomsoever I say unto thee, this shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. So the Lord now is going to set up a scenario where he's going to now begin to weed out the men based on what he determines was going to happen at this area where the water is, right? It says, verse 5, so he brought down the people unto the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, Everyone that lappeth up of the water with his tongue as the dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, everyone that boweth down upon his knees to drink. So the Lord is now going to separate the men based on how they go and they drink the water, right? When it says lap it like a dog, it's not talking about that they actually got down on their all fours and just lapped the water with their tongue. It's just talking about the sound, the noise that they would make when they went to go and get the water. When you read it in this context in the Hebrew, right? The sound, right? Like a dog, right? And sometimes you see men, they'll go grab the water with their hand, right? And then you'll have others that'll just get down on their knees and put their mouths and just suck up the water, right? So it's the sound that these men made when they was grabbing the water to drink it compared to the others, right? So now you have two distinct groups based on how men went and got water. Imagine that, right? Look how the Most High is, what the Most High is doing to separate men, right? Just on how you drink water, right? It could be on the smallest detail. The Most High can now make major decisions, right? So it says here in verse 6, and the number of them that lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, were 300 men. But all the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water. Again, so like I was explaining, one group, the 300, grabbed the water in their hands to drink the water out their hands, and the others got down on their knees and put their mouths to the actual water that was in the river, the well, or whatever, the stream, whatever it was, right? So this is how the Lord now has chosen his men that he's going to go out there and fight. Not that these other men weren't courageous, it's just the Most High didn't choose them because they were of the 10,000. So that means that of this people, 9,700 of these men all got down on their knees to go and drink water, whereas only 300 used their hands to go and drink that water.
Water was so clean. They were able to do that.
Huh?
Now you think about the water to go to the river to drink, you know?
Right, but you got to remember, when you're in the city, usually sometimes in the city or areas around the city, because of pollution and waste and things of that nature, you don't see clean water running through rivers. If you go out, right, where a lot of men or man has not tampered and is not there to go and pollute and contaminate the things, you find some pure water just running. When I was just out, I just came back from Colorado, and I seen a few of that, right? I saw big, not even just the streams, big bodies of clear water just running. And that's like, wow, right? But you don't normally see that because of man and pollution, and sometimes even in the area others, the waste from oil and this, that, and third, it can cause major contamination. But here, the Most High had it where during that time, these 300 men chose to drink that water with their hand and lap it up like a dog. Just like that, right? So now it says, verse 7, and the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 men that lapped will I save you and deliver the Midianites into thine hand, and let all the other people go every man unto his place. So everybody, those 9,700 left to go back to their dwelling place, along with the other 22,000 who are fearful to go and fight in the war, right? So now Gideon has his army, 300 men, like the movie, 300. No, these are the real 300 right here, right?
Oh, yeah, like the movie.
Like the movie, yeah. But this is the real.
They died. Those 300 died.
Right. Most High is with us here, right? So it says in verse 8, so the people took victuals in their hands and their trumpets, and he sent all the rest of Israel, every man unto his tent, and retained those 300 men. And the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. And it came to pass the same night that Yahweh said unto him, arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand, right? So while they now go and pitched, they can see the Midianites in the valley below them, beneath them. So they up in a higher elevation where they can now see them. And at that point in the night, the Most High now comes and speaks to Midian, whether it's through a vision, an angel, or whatever. The Most High comes and tells them, now is the time. Get up, I'm about to deliver it into your hand. It says, verse 10, but if thou fear to go down, go thou with Purah thy servant down to the host, and thou shalt hear what they say, and afterwards shall thine hands be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down with Purah his servant into the outside of the armed men that were in the host, right? So, like I said, when we read back in the previous chapters 5 and 6, Gideon wasn't, one who was like David, who was just courageous right from the gate. He was a person that had to kind of be coaxed and coerced into saying, listen, you can do this. You can do this. Don't worry about it. And the Most High was working with him. So even after the Most High had now given him the order on how he was going to choose the army, saying he was going to go out and fight, the Lord knew that Gideon still had some bit of doubt in him. So he said, if you feel that way, go down with your servant, and then he's going to give him another reinforcement to give him strength and courage so that he can go and conquer this battle, right? So it says in verse 12, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and the camels were without number as the sand by the sea side for multitude. So now you got Midian, who is Ishmaelites, you got Amalek, who are Edomites, and then you got all the rest of them that's of the children of the east, right? So you got all those other people that's mixed amongst them that was in that region. So now it says they not only had that, they looked like grasshoppers, a field of grasshoppers. Not like you're talking about grasshoppers, you may go out to your backyard and look. But when you out in the plain and you see a whole bunch of grasshoppers that's just covering a certain area, like how the Most High can use locusts, and how locusts can then come through a whole field and destroy all the crops. So when you see them out in their natural element, that's a innumerable army where you can't even count how many people there. They didn't even talk about the camels. How many camels they had was like by the sand, like the sea by the seaside, right? Or the sand by the seaside, if I must say. So now, just with the number of people, then you got the number of the animals that's there. That shows you the volume of how many people in comparison to the 300 that Gideon had with him, right? So I'm going to read it again, verse 12. And the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along in the valley like grasshoppers for multitude. And their camels were without number as the sand by the seaside for multitude. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow and said, behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it that it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along. So remember, Gideon was a bit fearful, and the Most High knew it. So now what happened? The Most High set it up where he came down with his servant, and he was going to now give this dream and this vision to someone outside of the house, outside of the host. Gideon didn't know this individual, but now he gives this vision about him conquering the Midianites. To do what? Reinforce his courage to now go and conquer them, right? So the Most High is now working with Gideon. Sometimes when you may not be there yet, right? If you have chosen by the Most High will work with you. The Most High be patient with you. He wants us to do the same thing with others, where sometimes they may not be always, but we got to be patient with them. We got to bring them along as well. This is what the Most High is doing with Gideon. Gideon was not someone who was overly courageous. He was a man that was a righteous man for the Most High to elevate him to that position, but he needed to be worked on. So now here it is, throughout all the ordeals that Gideon was trying to confirm with the Most High, he still had his spirit that needed to be increased. So here it is, this man now gives him this dream of how he saw the barley tumbling into the host, which is really Gideon and the 300 going into the host of Midian, Amalek, and the rest of those men that was there to go and conquer them. Verse 14, and his fellow answered and said, this is nothing else save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand have God delivered Midian and all the host. So now here is his servant who's with him, his fellow who's standing there with him. And he realizes and gets to understand it and breaks it down in the sight of the person who had the dream and Gideon. So now what is this going to do for Gideon? Verse 15. And it was so Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshiped and returned unto the host of Israel and said, arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hands the host of Midian. So now the battle was already set in array, but the Most High had him leave and go down to the outskirts to now go ahead, this man give this vision, give this dream, have his servant break it down. Now he sees what's going on. He worships, prays to the Most High. He comes back, and now he's ready to fight this fight. Verse 16. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put a trumpet in every man's hand with empty pitchers and lamps within the pitchers, right? So now the 300, now they put them in companies of 100, right? 100 here, 100 here, 100 here, right? And then he armed it with a trumpet and empty pitchers and lamps that was inside the pitchers, right? It says, and he said unto them, look on me and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that as I do, so shall ye do, right? So now it's going to be the Most High has it where Gideon is going to be the one who's going to set the order up as far as for how they're going to now go and attack this battle, right? Because again, the number of multitude compared to what they had is not a lot. So now he's setting them up, or he's going to set them up in companies, 3 companies around their whole host in the valley, right? And he got these earthen pictures with lamps and their trumpets. So now everything that Gideon does, that's what the rest of the host, similar to what Joshua did when they went to go Jericho. They followed after Joshua's lead and did everything that he said. Now Gideon is raised up and doing the same thing.
You see, Gideon as the captain, he's going in. He's going in first, and everybody's seeing what he does, and that's what they're going to do. But like now, you know, the battle goes on. The captain who's leading stay in the back somewhere else secured, and he sends his men out. You know, that's what they do now.
You talking about Esau's army?
Yeah, Esau's army,
right?
Army, you know.
So you can equate when folks talk about the captain of the host, right? To what they talk about now, like your generals, right? Your generals are the ones who normally don't go out in the trench of the battle. They the ones who kind of hang back and let the others go out and fight, but they get the name, right? But back then, those who were the captain of our host, they went out and fought right alongside the rest of the men, right? They were courageous enough to go and fight. Sometimes they say, well, you put time in, you don't have to go out and fight. But these men fought in a manner where they got that reputation as being warriors, right? You want to be a warrior. In today's time, thinkers are the ones who are praised, right? Because you could think of a strategy. If I can think of a way where I can go and win this battle without putting any sword in my hand or anyone dying, then that's a great strategy. So then you start going up the ranks. But in these times, these men went out and actually fought. The Most High went with them with the angels, and they actually went out and fought and slaughtered these individuals who tried to come against us, as we're going to read here in the rest in 8th chapter.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, no, like we read, but like Alexander the Great, he was going out there, he was in the battle with his people, and he was fighting. Probably he was ahead or whatever. He was fighting people, and also he was in the battle. That's supposed to be somewhere safe and the Senate men.
Right. I mean, when it got to a point where when David was, you know, consumed with his affairs back in the home front, his captain that went out and they was conquering, they had to say, listen, you got to come out here, lest they say that I did this, right? Because they understood that you got your name for actually going out there and fight. That's how David initially got his name, because they said David is out there killing 10,000s of 10,000. Saul just do 1,000, but David do 10,000s, right? Because of him actually being out there. So they knew that when you read it in the Samuels, that David had to, or kings, David had to come out there to go and fight, or else they was going to now give that honor unto his captain of the host. But now let's read on. Judges 7 and 18. It says, when I blow with the trumpet and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and say, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. Right? So that's what the men was now going to do. Once he heard them blow that trumpet, right? And then they was going to do the same thing, and then shout this line, the sword of Yahweh and of Gideon. Now, link that with Numbers chapter. Numbers, the 10th chapter and the 9th verse. Read that. Bible shop. 10 and 9.
Numbers 10 and 9. And if ye go to war in your land against the enemy that oppresseth you, then ye shall blow an alarm with the trumpets, and ye shall be remembered before the Lord your God, and ye shall be saved from your enemies.
Right. So this is what we read during the time of the memorial blowing of the trumpets, right? That this was a statute that when we go to war, we have someone coming and trying to oppress us in our land, that we had to go and blow the trumpet, right? It was going to be now a token or a sign between us and the Most High, that the Most High would come and deliver us from our enemies that's trying to come against us, right? So you see this periodically throughout the scriptures when men went to war, such as Judas Maccabees. You read that in 1st and 2nd Judas Maccabees. Every time it's not always mentioned, but we know that this is a part of the law, and that men that went out to war, they had to blow the ram's horn. Joshua and the priests, they did the same thing. They blew the ram's horn before they went to war. So here it is now, when Gideon brings these men, he gives everybody a trumpet, and that's going to be the same thing. We had to blow that trumpet, but now what accompanies it is strategy that was going to be used to now bring down these Midianites who had been joined by Amalek and the rest of the nations at that time. So back in Judges chapter 7, I'm going to read verse 18 again. It says, when I blow with the trumpet and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and say the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. So Gideon was going to bring in one of the camps, right, of the 100 men. There's going to be another camp somewhere else and another camp somewhere else. So he's saying, listen, when we do this, then y'all also follow behind us and do the same thing, right? Verse 19. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, right, which is in the middle of the night. And they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. So now they're strategically coming to right outside the camp, right? So this is in the night, in the middle of the night, right? The middle watch. They're coming, blowing the trumpets, and they're going to break their pitchers, their earthen vessels, right there in the camp. And then once that happens, it would now be an alarm almost to the people that's there, the Midianites, when they hear this, because most of them are sleeping, or most of them are reclining and at their leisure. So now all of a sudden, when you hear this, it startles you, and you hear a loud noise of men, right? So now when you hear that on one area, and then all of a sudden you hear it in another area, then all of a sudden you hear it in another area, then that means that, listen, number one, you're not ready and you're not prepared. And now here it is, you got people charging at you, right? Looking to come and fight against you. Now, what would you be left to do? But try to escape and flee because you're not ready. And it sounds like it's a whole bunch of people coming at you from all sides, from all areas. That was a strategy that Gideon was putting in enforcing here to take down the Midianites. I'm going to read it again. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, and they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the three companies blew the trumpet and brake the pitchers, and held the lamps in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. Right? So all of them did it at the same time, right? Left hand with the lamps, right hand with the trumpets, right? It says, verse 21, and they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the hosts ran and cried and fled. Now remember, this is a army that was like grasshoppers in the field. It had camels that was as the sand of the sea. So if you got camels as the sand of the sea, you got to have a lot of victuals, you got to have a lot of substance and body to ride those camels also. So they had the numbers, but the Most High used this 300 men to impose fear on all of these nations, all of these heathen at the time, for them to flee. Deuteronomy, the 2nd chapter. It's a verse that we always use to come back to as a point of reference. Deuteronomy, the 2nd chapter, and the 25th verse.
Deuteronomy 2:25. This day will I begin to put the dread of thee and the fear of thee upon the nations that are under the whole heaven, who shall hear report of thee, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of thee.
Right. So the Lord was now going to change the spirit, change the heart, change the mind, remove the courage from the nations that was now coming against us at that time. The Lord can do that, right? Who knows our hearts better than the Most High? Who can control our hearts better than the Most High? So the Lord can now change what was once courageous into becoming feeble and weak and fearful, right? One more, Joshua chapter 5, verse 1.
Joshua 5:1. And it came to pass when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on the side of Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel until we were passed over, that their hearts melted, neither was their spirit in them anymore because of the children of Israel.
Right. So the Most High had their spirits melted. Same thing is happening here, right? By the sword of Yahweh and of Gideon, charge, right? So they're hearing this and they're remembering, oh, this is that God, this is that people. They're the it's one thing when you got strength in numbers, usually that puts fear in a person. But now when you are outnumbered, but then you are still charging at your enemy, that now gets like, no, these guys crazy or what? Like, what's going on with them that they're coming at us like that? Same thing happened with Judas Maccabees. Greatly outnumbered many times over, but they still went and charged and initiated the battle against their enemies and won time and time again. So here's the same thing happening with Gideon and his men. So now let's go back, chapter 7, verse 21. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the hosts ran and cried and fled. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and Yahweh set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the hosts. And the hosts fled to Beth Shittah and Zerath, and to the border of Abim Abel Mahalah and Tabath. Verse 23. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali and out of Asher and out of all Manasseh and pursued after the Midianites. So now once they start to flee and they start to run, now they're getting more of their brothers, right? The 300 was there that was used to go and set this thing off, to let them know that, see, it's not about the numbers. But now once that had transpired and the men started to run, then they started grabbing brothers from Asher and Naphtali and Manasseh to come help them chase after all of these men that's running and then go and kill them, right? Verse 24, and Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim saying, come down against the Midianites and take before them the waters unto Beth Barah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and took the waters of Beth Barah and Jordan. So now you got these tribes, but then they send messages out to Ephraim, right? Say, hey, Ephraim, Akim, y'all need to come down and help us take these Midianites. And then when in doing so, you can take that region right there. All the region around those waters, it'll be for you. So now here comes Ephraim joining in the battle. When we look at these tribes and we say, hey, Naphtali came and Asher came and Manasseh came and then Ephraim comes, right? We look into the Caribbean and we see these tribes as their own nations, right? So now you got groups of sub-nations, companies of nations that's now joining in the battle with the 300 men. Showing you how powerful a nation we really are when you look at us on a grand scale, right? Because you can say, yeah, I'm going to go down to Cuba, right? And then you got a lot of Manasseh or Cuba that's down in the islands that's living there. But then you already got a whole bunch that's already here in America. Same thing for Asher. Same thing for Naphtali, right? Same thing for Ephraim, right? You got a lot of us that are now dwelling here in America, but all of us has these makeshift homelands. I said makeshift because that's not our real homeland. That's just the land that we settled here in our captivity, right? But when you look at the grand scale, we are great people, a great nation of people that no one can really take us down if we have our power, right? But that's why the Most High had to do what he did with the 300 men so that we wouldn't vaunt ourselves and think that we can prosper and sustain ourselves without the Most High. Everything had to come back to the Most High. Like we read in Corinthians, you cannot have any presence in the sight of no flesh should glory in the presence of the Most High, right? No flesh should glory in the presence of the Most High. So we always want to make sure that we humble ourselves, even in war, even in victory, before the Lord. So now, reading this again, 24, and Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim, saying, come down against the Midianites and take before them the waters unto Beth Barah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and took the waters unto Beth Barah and Jordan. And they took two princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeeb, and they slew Oreb upon the rock, Oreb, and Zeeb they slew at the winepress of Zeeb, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeeb to Gideon on the other side Jordan. So now here it is, Ephraim in their battle to take this area, this region, these waters. They took two or two princes from the Midianites, reputable chief men, and they slew them in their respective locations, cut their heads off, and brought their heads to Gideon to show him what they had done and taken down the Midianites that had now fled in that area.
I said, I gotta map that. I gotta look at the map to see, where they fought, where they flew to capture.
Mm-hmm.
These cities are important too.
Good. All right, let's jump to chapter 8, verse 1. It says, and the men of Ephraim said unto him, why hast thou served us thus, that thou callest us not when thou wentest to fight with the Midianites? And they did chide with him sharply, right? So here it is, Ephraim being all proud, right? Boastful. Why you didn't call us when you initially was going to go and fight, right? Not knowing that the Most High was the one who was ordering this whole situation, right? They don't want Ephraim to be there in the beginning. But now they getting on Gideon thinking that he slighted them, right? So now they coming out and it says they chided with him sharply. This ain't no just a light conversation. They really coming at Gideon, right? Like how sometimes you may see two people yelling at each other in the street, and after a while it may escalate into something physical, right? Something can happen. Somebody could draw a sword because now tensions is rising. It says in verse 2, and he said unto them, what have I done now in comparison of you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? So now Gideon is being humble. He was like, but y'all getting on me Like, what? I have not done anything in comparison to what you as a tribe have done. The areas that you have, the people that y'all conquered, I mean, like, come on now. How can I stand in comparison to anything in reputation that you guys have done? For you to come at me like this, right? Y'all already got a name. Y'all already done great things. Why are you coming at me like this? They gotta have it all, right? So it says in verse 3, God hath delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb and Zeeb. And what was I able to do in comparison of you? Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that. So now after they realized and say, yeah, the Most High did deliver these guys into our hand. Yep, he did give us that over there. And we did get a nice area. He didn't get that, but we got that. He called us at the last, and he gave us this region here to go and take. So you know what? Nah, don't do nothing. Leave it alone. Everything is cool. All right, that was a good point. Good point. And then all that tension, all that chammer and everything kind of just went away when they sat back and realized it. Showing you that sometimes you can make a big deal out of nothing. That's just the spirit in Israel. Sometimes we think we should have more than what's deserved or required of us, not realizing what we already have, or not realizing what the Most High has already blessed us with, right? We have this thing that we want more. We deserve more in the eyes of men, or we should have more of respect or more of this than what's already given to you by the Most High. That's why it tells you in Timothy's, 2 Timothy's, 2 Timothy, I think it's the 6th chapter. First Timothy's the 6th. First Timothy's chapter 6, verse 6. It says in 1 Timothy 6:6, but godliness with contentment is great gain, right? So it says, but godliness, which is similar to righteousness, right? Your godliness is attached to your righteousness, which is attached to the keeping of the law in the spirit of Yahweh, right? Then it says, pardon me, with contentment, meaning being content with the things or your current situation. If you out there doing the work of the Most High, keeping the commandments, and then whatever it is that you have, you're content with, you're not upset that you don't have the better house or the better car or the better job or the big family, whatever. You're content with what you have. That's a great gain, because in doing that, in that contentment, you have now built up so much patience to wait on the Most High and hope for something that's going to come later on, that you can just flex with what you have right now. That's the deal. Sometimes it's hard in this society. We got much at us to get our minds to become insatiable, that contentment is not enough. I got to have more and more and more and more. And then now you got to go and do all this extra stuff to try to attain those things. But just doing the Most High's will and being content with what it is, not to say that you don't desire to have a better car, but that's not your motivation right now. My car can get me from A to B, and I'm cool with that. Right? I don't have to save up thousands of dollars to get that Beamer, right? To get that Bentley, or to get that whatever it may car, the latest Toyota. I may not have to do that. I can flex with the 2005. I can flex with the 1995 car. It gives me the point A. I can clean my car. I'm good, right? You got that car? It's good for you, brother, right? It don't have to cause, because once you get into that mind state, that's when the left-handed spirits of envy and envy comes in, right? And then you now start to desire what another person had. You start wishing hate on that other person. Why he get that? That's when those spirits come in. Now here it is. Gideon was raised up as the judge. Here come Ephraim was upset when they realized, yo, man, the Most High already blessed you. Why you coming at me like this? You got a good land. You killed princes. The Most High delivered them into your hands, not mine, in your hands. How you coming like? And he said, you know what? Brother's right. Let us back off this brother, right? And a lot of times that sometimes happen with us in the carnal world when we just dealing with certain carnal situations. All right, so that was 1 Corinthians 6:6. Let's go back to Judges chapter 8 and verse 3 again. It says, God hath delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb, and Zeeb. And what was I able to do in comparison of you? Then their anger was abated toward him when he had said that. One more link of Philippians 2 and 3. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 3. Philippians 2 and 3 says, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. And that's what Gideon just did, right? He wasn't looking for vainglory, right? He wasn't about strife. That's what they came with, strife, right? But then he was in lowliness of mind and he esteemed those men that was from Ephraim better than himself, right? And that quenched that spirit, right? Also, go to Proverbs, I think it's 15. Proverbs chapter 15. And 1. It says, Proverbs 15 and 1, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger, right? So a soft answer, wisdom, right, will turn away wrath. These brothers came with wrath. Gideon gave them wisdom. He gave them soft words, kind words, meaningful words to set things in the right perspective. But grievous words stir up anger. It says, the tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of fools pour out foolishness. And that's how sometimes you know the power in the tongue and how people begin to talk. How they say the things that they say and what it is they say will cause a whole world of damage, right? So a wise man will know how to choose his words carefully at the time appointed in order to handle a certain situation, just like Gideon just exercised here. So now let's go back. Judges chapter 8 and verse 4. It says, and Gideon came to Jordan, passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him, faint yet pursuing them. So now his 300 is still going after the Midianites, right? And they're not letting up. And as they're now traveling to go and catch them, they're getting a bit tired. They need some more food. They need some more substance to now get them over the hump, right? It says in verse 5, and he said unto the men of Succoth, give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me, but they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian. So this is now, his goal is to go and capture these kings. But now on the way to go get them, they need victuals. Listen, can y'all help us out? Give us some bread, because we after these guys. We ain't got nothing to deal with you, no harm with you. We just need some food. Can you help us out? Right? Verse 6. And the princes of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thine army? Right? So they're looking like, listen, why would we help you go and catch these kings? Y'all ain't caught them, right? Because they thinking in their minds, what happens if you don't catch them and we help y'all out? They're going to probably come back on us, not knowing that the Most High is with us, not knowing that you don't know who we are. You haven't heard our reputation. Okay, cool. Verse 7, and Gideon said, therefore, when Yahweh have delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into mine hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars, right? So because you doubting what we and our God are capable of doing, when we get them, we're going to come back and tear your flesh limb from limb, pretty much, right? Now, verse 8, And he went up thence to Penuel, and spake unto them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him, as the men of Succoth had answered him. And he spake also unto the men of Penuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. Right? So both of these areas that the men or the children of the east are dwelling in did not want to aid Israel, thinking that their 300 men or their God was not going to deliver them into their hand, and they're doing a political thing, right? But they're saying it sharply and chiding with Israel and saying in the manner that, of course, upset Gideon or anyone at that time, especially when you're faint, especially when you're coming with peace, right? So now to both of these areas, when I come back, all right, then we're going to see what's going to take place, right? Verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Pekor, and their hosts with them, about 15,000 men, all that were left of all the hosts of the children of the east. For there fell 120,000 men that drew sword. So 120,000, right, fell at this time unto Israel. 15,000 was left. That's running from 300 men, right? 300 men now have chased these men, because remember, the spirit, their heart is gone, right? The Most High had to move the courage out of them, so everybody just running away. So now they chase them into a town, into an area, and now they have them in the street.
These are not like people men; these are able-bodied, army men.
Right? It's because it says, "For there fell 120,000 men that drew sword." So this is soldiers. This ain't just talking about, the baker, and the baker is just, no, this is talking about people who were ready to fight, right? Verse 11, and Gideon went up by the way of them that dwelt in tents on the east of Nobah and Jokbahar, and smote the host, for the host was secure, right? So they was in an area that had probably a great wall of defense or what have you, but Gideon them strategically went on one area and got in and was able to slay that host, right? It says, and when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them and took the two kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the hosts. So that 15,000 all got discomfited, and he took those two kings and brought them back as prisoners, right? So now he has them as prisoners with him. Verse 13, and Gideon, the son of Joash, returned from battle before the sun was up, right? So again, remember, they went in the middle watch. So now they went in the middle watch, and they went out fighting, chasing them down right at the beginning of the middle watch attack. And they got them in a certain area, and now he got the kings, and now he's returning before sunrise, right? It says, and caught a young man of the men of Succoth and inquired of him. And he described unto him the princes of Succoth and the elders thereof, even 70 men, right? So 60, 17 men. That's how many? 77 men, right? These are the elders that they had. So now, just like when you read during the time of Joshua, when they sent the spies out and they found Rahab the harlot, and Rahab kind of gave them preference, showed them consideration to allow them to flee, they were shown favor. So they now found a man who was a traitor to his own people pretty much, and gave them the whole laydown of what was going to happen to what they was capable of doing and what Gideon was going to be able to do unto them, right? But I would say he's a traitor to his own people, but if he's a wise man and he know who Israel is, you know that there was not going to be any wins, right? They was not going to be able to stand and fight against the children of Israel, don't matter how many they were, right? Because the Most High was with us. Verse 15, and he came unto the men of Succoth and said, behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom ye did upbraid me, saying, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in thine hand, that we should give bread unto thy men that are weary, right? So do you actually have them now for us to help you out? Okay, we're going to get them, and now we're going to come back, and now I'm going to deal with you because you upbraided me. When it's upbraided, it's not like they just said, nah, man, we we're not going to give you any bread right now. I don't know what you're going to, nah. They really like speaking down and sharp. Man, get out of here. You ain't even got nobody. You will come to us for some food and man, get out of here. That's how he spoke to them, right? And made them feel small. So now back. Verse 16, and he took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Sakar, right? Meaning they went and beat those men. That's like when you was a kid and your mother told you to go get a branch, go get a switch from out the forest, out the woods, and you bring that switch back and you beat them. So now they went and got these thorns and these briars and they beat and tortured these men with that stuff, right? Because they spoke in a manner that disrespected Israel at that time, right? I like how the wordness is, and when it got the thorns and the thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Sakar. It ain't like he sat there and said, "Let me break down these scriptures to you," that they teaching them words. No, like they taught them a lesson. Like sometimes you see somebody beat somebody behind, like, yeah, okay, he learned the lesson today. They ain't gonna ever try that again, right? Verse 17. And he beat down the tower of Penuel and slew the men of the city, right? So they got taught a lesson that day, both Succoth and Penuel, to never come against Israel, right? Verse 18, then said he unto Zabah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor? And they answered, as thou art, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king. Right? So when he asked them, who did you go and kill? He was like, listen, it was like one of your brethren, and each one resembled the king, showing you the prominence that we have as a people. When we say that we are really the children of kings, princes, that's kind of what the other nations looked at us when we were in our glory. Right now, we're not in our glory. We're in our hell. They don't see us that way. But now, if we continue to do these commandments, if we continue to try to keep the statutes of the Most High and walk with that, then we can be looked at as kings again. It's going to happen regardless, right? Regardless of what Esau, the nations do in order to kind of keep us dumbfounded, to keep us on drugs, to keep us on all kind of wicked lifestyles. Most High's 144,000 men is going to be raised up and set the standard, and we're going to come back to that same prominence, right? Here, it shows you how they saw us. Each one was like the children of a king, right? So when you look at and around the world, you see kings and then you see their princes, they're arrayed and decked out. They walk with a certain essence to them. And that's who they went and killed of our people, right? So it says here, verse 18 again, then said he unto Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor? And they answered, as thou art, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king. And he said, they were my brethren, even the sons of my mother, as Yahweh liveth. If ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you, right? So if you would have shown favor to those, my kindred, my blood, my people, I would have never killed, I would never do anything to you. I would have let you go. I would have given you a pass. I might have done discipline to you, but I would have given you a pass. However, you went and slayed my own. Verse 20, and he said unto Jether, his firstborn, up and slay them. Right? So now, as they said this, his youngest that was there, he said, listen, get up and grab a sword and kill these men. It says, but the youth drew not a sword, for he feared because he was yet a youth. Right? So sometimes when you see this in movies where a family wants to go and make an example of somebody, or he goes and gets someone that's feeble within his team or within his gang or within his army to go and now handle the situation, to make it even more of a prominent thing that they was able to conquer those individuals. So here it is, Gideon wanted to use his firstborn son, but he was still young, to go and say even a young kid, even a young one was able to kill the kings of these people. Go to Joshua real quick, chapter 10. Joshua chapter 10. and 24.
Joshua chapter 10, verse 24. And it came to pass when they brought out those kings unto Joshua, that Joshua called for all the men of Israel and said unto the captains of the men of war which went with him, come near, put your feet upon the necks of these kings. And they came near and put their feet upon the necks of them.
Right. So now here it is when Joshua, and then when it got the kings, Joshua didn't do it. He said, go get the call the captains. Call my captains. Each one, I want you to go and put your foot on his neck. Next, you put your foot on his neck. Next, you put your foot on his neck, right? To show you this guy is a king, but he ain't nothing before us. He ain't nothing to stand before us in the Most High. So he had each and every one of them do that to show how great of a people we are. Keep reading.
Verse 25. And Joshua said unto them, fear not, nor be dismayed. Be strong and of good courage, for thus shall the Lord do to all your enemies against whom ye fight.
Right. So that was done in order to now continue to have that happen. Where every time we go out to war, we would never be fearful because of what we've seen in our past happen. Right. Now you see what just happened with these kings, how you put your foot on the neck. The next one that we're going to take down, don't be afraid. It's going to happen again. So even with time of Gideon, you reflect. You see sometimes throughout the scriptures, men will go back in the past and reflect on what the Most High had done with other camps, right? What the Most High did with Joshua, what the Most High did with Gideon, what the Most High did with David, what the Most High did with Judas, right? These are the things that we reflect on to show you that the Most High is now going to allow us to persevere over anything. And let me allow you to get this feel here of putting your foot on a king who once ruled over a whole nation of people, right? That's what the Lord did here. Read.
Verse 26.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua 10:26. And afterward Joshua smote them and slew them and hanged them on 5 trees, and they were hanging upon the trees until the evening.
Right. So afterwards, after each one of those captains came and put their foot on their necks, then Joshua himself went and slew them and then hang them up all on trees until sundown. And then he took them down during sundown, right? So when you're in war, sometimes certain things in groups, if you read about people cutting off shoulders, cutting off tongues, cutting off heads, and bringing the prize back into the camp. Imagine that right now, somebody went and cut somebody's head off out here in the battle, right? That would be looked at as gruesome. It's like, yeah, these guys are savages. But when you're in war and to give our people courage and strength of battle, sometimes these things was done for that perspective. Then you had it on the other perspective where it was now looked at as a deterrent to the other nations. Remember those kings that ruled? Look what we did to them. Step up if you want, right? So if they come in our area, they could see their faces, their heads, see his shoulder, see his arm, all that stuff, to be a deterrent that the God of Israel is the one that delivered those men, those kings, those nations into our hands, right? Now let's go back to Judges chapter 8. Read verse 20 again. It says, and he said unto Jether, his firstborn, up and slay them, meaning go kill them. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth, right? So he himself, had to get more courage. He had to build that up in him, right? Not everybody is born with courage. Not everyone that comes into the truth has that certain spirit in order to overcome or to deal with certain matters. Sometimes you got to build up to it. Some people come in with it. Some others got to build up to it. Here, he's just a youth, just like David, but he had that same courage like David did. He would have to be built up just like his father. Gideon had to have it built up in him, right? Verse 21, Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, Rise thou and fall upon us. For as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks, right? So their camels' necks were, or the camels was arrayed in different jewelry and different things, right? But here you notice that these two kings kind of urged Gideon to kill him, right? Knowing the reputation that he had, it says, so, for as the man is, so is his strength, right? So based on your actions, that's what your name is going to be based upon. That's what you're going to have a reputation about. So if you're going to be this man, if you're going to be the captain or judge, you got to do it, right? Sometimes you just understand what it is. You just know your fate is sealed based on what type of honor an individual has. And they knew that that was in him. They knew that that's what he was set up to do. Hey, man, get it over with. Get it over with. We know the type of person you is, and go ahead, let's go. Right? And he slew them right there. That's a different type of warrior mentality when you know certain things. These guys wasn't cop and please. You'll see in the scriptures in certain areas and other books and storylines, some people wanted to cop a plea. These guys wasn't cop and please. Hey man, come get it over with, right? Because they understand what this is about. It's like almost sometimes when you look in the streets, how there's a street code. How the game is different from, as they say, civilian life, right? They understand how it is. Somebody gets shot through some type of gang thing, can't go to the cops. It is what it is. People coming to you like, yo, I seen him. We need to go down and call police. No, I ain't calling police. I came in this knowing I was about, I know what this was, right? That's street carnal mentality, right? It ain't, I mean, to have our people involved with that is not something that we want to get ourselves involved with. But in this case, as a soldier, as an army, as a king, they understood it as well because they got to that point doing the same thing. People are either going to be conquered or you're going to be the conqueror, right? In this case, now they had once conquered the people and done certain things, killed his family members. Now they knew what came with that. If it was in the same situation, if he had killed their sons, they would have to go. There's nothing, no doubt about it. So it's the same thing here. They recognized that and was able to now deal with their fate. Read it again. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, Rise thou and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, Rule thou over us, both thou and thy son and thy son's sons also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. So they wanted to now set Gideon up as a king. And then Gideon would now have the procession of kings from his lineage, right? But of course, we know the Most High controls man. The Most High did not have it where it was going to come from the lineage of Gideon. It was going to have to come from the lineage of David, right? But that's what they wanted to do. We see that at the time. The same thing with Yahushua. When now Yahushua was set up, they wanted to make Yahushua king. We always want to have this ruler. We always want to have that figure over us because we see what the other nations do, right? Go to 1 Samuel chapter 8. 1 Samuel chapter 8. And verse I'm going to read from 1. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 1. It says, And it came to pass when Samuel was old that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second was Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after lucre or money, and took bribes and perverted judgment. Right? Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. So all the other nations, they all had kings, just like how we see in Gideon went and took the 2 kings, just like how Joshua went and took down the kings. All the other nations always had kings. Israel didn't have a king. So in this time, it was the same thing that we always wanted someone to now rule over us like a king because we saw all the other nations do it, right? We didn't need it, but we now look to what the other nations was doing. It says, but the thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord. And the Lord said unto Samuel, hearken unto the voice of the people and all that they say unto thee. For they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. Because the Most High was our king over all kings. He was our Lord over all lords, ruler over all rulers. But we didn't see that because he wasn't physically sitting on the throne here on earth like the rest of the nations had a king, right? None of those kings could do for their nation of people what the Most High was doing for us as a nation. But we envied what they had, and we wanted to have that established within our people. It wasn't so that we just could have chose a different judge, right, who still had to now come and intervene with the prophets of the seers to hear the word of the Most High. They just didn't want someone to move Samuel's sons out of the way. They wanted a king. They used that opportunity to say, just give us a king. Not like the kingdom, like the king himself couldn't be wicked or take bribes. He could do the same thing, but they wanted this because they envied what the nations had. Verse 8, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of the Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so do they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them, right? So the Most High says, give them what they want, but let them know that what they about to get themselves into ain't going to be just what they thought they were going to expect. And when you read further down, the king himself would now have to take of the people their land and other people for servants for him, right? This is what they now was going to agree to, and Israel agreed, and that's how we have what we have of the procession of kings. But this was not going to happen or come from Gideon, right? It was not going to come out of his lineage. All right, so let's go back. We have verse 22. It says, the men of Israel said unto Gideon, rule thou over us, both thou and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. So this is a man of wisdom and spirit to know that the Most High was our king at that time. We didn't need to establish or set up any man to come and set up over us. The Most High was that for us. Verse 24, and Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request of you, that you would give me every man the earrings of his prey. For they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites, right? So the Ishmaelites had a custom to wearing these types of jewelry that was all made out of pure gold. So Gideon, and him being in position to be the captain or the judge at that time to bring down the Midianites, asked this favor that all of the soldiers that was there give him the ornaments that was received from the war, right? Give them to him. Give him all the ornaments. All the other stuff y'all can have, just give me the ornaments. Why? Because Gideon has something in mind to do with it, right? It says, verse 25, and they answered, we will give them. We will willingly give them. And they spread a garment and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. So all the earrings that they had on, all the things that was on them, they went and laid out a big sheet and everyone just cast them in there, right? It says, and the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside ornaments and collars and purple raiment that was on the kings of Midian, and beside the chains that were about their camels' necks, right? So this is set aside from all of that. They had other stuff that they took in the spoils of war, but he just wanted these golden earrings that weighed that much. Verse 27, and Gideon made an ephah thereof and put it in his city, even in Ophrah. And all Israel went thither a whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. So he took all that gold, melted it down, and made an ephah, a golden ephah, right? That's like how the priests will wear. He made one and set it up. And what happened? When Israel now looked upon it, they now looked at this thing as being like a god. And they went and started worshiping it, or started thinking that this thing is what's going to now give them power. Sometimes you'll see a lot of us get trapped up in tangible things, whether it be necklaces or chains, and thinking that, oh, this shield, if I just touch this shield will give me strength when I go out to camp. Or this shield will give me strength when I go to work. No one is going to come in. And you start finding people start doing little subtle rituals where they start touching it, right? And it becomes a daily occurrence. Every day they touch it or they play with it, right? It's not a problem having different graven images of things. It's when you now start worshiping it and thinking it's a deity, that it has power, that it can save you, it can do things for you other than the Most High. And it said this thing became a snare unto Gideon and the people. So even this man who was raised up as a judge had some flaw, had some sin in him, where he now set this up and he now caused the nation to also sin by it, right? I'm gonna read it again. And Gideon made an ephah thereof and put it in his city, even in Ophrah, and all Israel went thither a whoring after it, which thing became a snare unto Gideon and to his house. Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more, and the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon. So imagine that. The Most High just delivered the Midianites into our hands. But now, even in the time that the Midianites was delivered into our hands, we had peace for 40 years. This ephah has been set up and caused us to go to hell off. So imagine now, there's no trouble, no war, no people, nobody coming up. You can see that how that space of time would now allow or convince certain individuals that this thing was now going to be our safe haven, our protector, right? As long as it's there, it will protect us from all of the nations round about. Many would never come up against us again into revenge. So 1 year goes by, 5 years go by, 10 years go by, 15 years go by. This thing is there, set up, and it's causing us to go to hell off. But the Most High is giving us peace from the Midianites, but he's also setting up the next thing, right? Verse 29. And Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. Jerubbaal is Gideon. And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, for he had many wives. Wow. 70 sons he had, right? It says, and his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son, whose name he called Abimelech, right? So now here it is. It's going to the lineage of Gideon. Now, if he didn't have any daughters or not, it's focusing in on these sons, because as we read on in the storyline, we're going to see that something was going to transpire. We know that the men is what carries on your posterity, it carries on your lineage or your line, your bloodline. So it says here, he had another son that was by a concubine, right? And he named that son Abimelech. So now it separates out Abimelech, because of course, Abimelech is going to be very key to what was now going to continue on after he was gone. So verse 30 again. And Gideon had 70 sons of his own body begotten, for he had many wives. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bare him a son whose name he called Abimelech. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age and was buried in a sepulchre of Joash, his father, in Ophrah of the Abizarites, right? So now Gideon died in a good old age. He didn't die at 50 and now 60. He died up there where most people died having a good age, having a good life, right? And he was buried in a sepulchre near where his land of his fathers is. 33. And it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again and went a-whoring after Baalim and made Baal Bereth their God, right? So they went and now totally disbanded, following after the Most High, and start worshiping other gods, right? And in the worshiping of other gods, you're not keeping the commandments of the Most High anymore, right? You're not keeping the Sabbath days anymore, because to worship that God means to follow the precepts or the customs that now man has created in worshiping this God. The Most High has given us commandments on how to worship him. But when man erects these different graven images and false gods, now you conspire on what you want to do. And then you start looking at what the nations are doing and what things, customs they have, and then you start following those. That's what the people were doing. Verse 34. And the children of Israel remembered not Yahweh their power, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side. So that's how you know they wasn't keeping the commandments no more. Because to know the Most High, to be at one with the Most High, is to be at one with his commandments. But when you don't remember the Most High, you're not keeping any of his commandments. You're not keeping dietary laws. You're not keeping moral customs. You're not keeping holy days. You're not doing any of these things. You just now going out there as a heathen, right? Verse 35. Neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had showed unto Israel. So after Gideon had died, and then now the shift changes where they start worshiping other gods, and we forgot the Most High. Not only did they forget the Most High, but they forgot the favor that was shown to Gideon, having had just delivered us for that period of time, that we had peace. So now his family doesn't have an honor anymore. His sons don't have honor anymore. So now we're going to see what was going to happen to the rest of his posterity that came out of it, specifically those 70 sons. All right. So we're going to stop there, and we'll pick up in about 3 weeks to see the continuing of the storyline for Abimelech and the rest of his brothers that come from out of the line of their fathers. All right. So that concludes today's Sabbath service lesson. Next week we'll be in chapters 10 and 11. Chapters 10 and 11 will be in for next week's Sabbath service. Also, remember the 10th, July 10th, sundown, is the Pentecost, right? Saturday night, July 10th, sundown is the Pentecost. For everybody who's not aware or who didn't get the notice, July 10th, sundown. Pentecost is always on a Saturday night, right? It's the one high holy day that will always be on the same day of the week, a Saturday night. It will never not be on a Saturday night. It will always be on a Saturday night because it is the morrow after the Sabbath. So we were keeping the Pentecost on the 10th of July. Most likely we will have it here at the school, and we will have a festive occasion and worship in all grandeur and gloriness. So with that, let me put up the anybody wants to send out donations, this is where you can send out your donations on your tithes to paypal.me/HYK12. Again, that's paypal.me/HYK12 for those who want to use PayPal to send donations. If you do not have PayPal and you want to send donations, please send it to Hayasharella Kanas. And I say this, please make sure when you send out your checks or your money orders, put Hayasharella Kanas, not Church of Israel, Congregation of Israel, Hayasharella Kanas, because that's how it is in the banking system. If not, then we got to do all changing around Hayash Kanash in Hebrew written out to this location, 3826 B Germantown Avenue, Philadelphia, PA, zip code 19140. And as always, Tuesday night and Friday night from 7 to 10 is our class nights. The teleconference number is on the screen, 515-604-9515 for those who want to participate. And the passcode is 521455 with pound at the end. All right. So with that, we're going to say a Shah Shabbat, happy Sabbath, Most High's will. Everybody has a remaining glorious Sabbath day. We're going to send up the closing prayers. I want to say Wada for all those who dialed in, logged on to listen to the Most High's Sabbath lesson today. Give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High for all knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You know, what we have does not come from ourselves alone. This is a privilege to be here, listening and understanding and comprehending these precepts that everyone doesn't have that opportunity. I always remind ourselves that this is a privilege to be here, right? It is our right, but we know in this day and time, everyone is not called in to see and understand this word and this wisdom. So we can't take it for granted. Always thank and give the gratitude to the Most High in Christ for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, their protection and their guidance in these last days. All right. So stay tuned for the closing prayers. And again, shalom, peace and blessings. Shah Shabbat. Not next week. Next week is the 3rd of July, but the following Sabbath, the 10th at sundown, which is the first day of the week, the 10th will be Pentecost, Feast of First Fruits. Oh, the reading is going to be Romans chapters 10 and 11. I end the bar. Barakatu Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ashira, Nathan Lanawa, Par Yahagapit, Thawad Amun, like Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Af Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. Imadu upon you in Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushai, Shammai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Malika Allah, Waha Allahayim, Waha Allah. Say again. Waha Allahayim, Tazwadakim, La, Shema Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wahakazayat, Banya, Yasha Allah, Washalat, Lanawa, Rabiam, Kakama, Rabiam, Da'ai, Rabiam, Bayana, Rabiam, Sabalanwa, Rabiam, Amawan, Rabiam, Aqua, Rabiam, Ahabiam, Rabiam, Haganah, Rakhanaya, Wasalat, Ko, Kata Ayamnawa, Laha Akim, Wa Akiwa, Wa Yasha'ala, Thum Yad, Wa Iwalam, Asham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Amun. Most High, in the name of Christ, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers of angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection. And forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahushua, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha'Allah, Wabatya Saparim. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Haynawa, Yahweh, Akkad. English translation. Most High in the name of Christ, bless us and Israel in the house of books or schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. Again, happy Sabbath. Peace and blessings to all Israel. Most High's will. Everyone has a productive, safe, upcoming week. Lord's will, we'll hear each other or see each other during the upcoming classes this week. Shalom.